penultimate in our Survive and Thrive series. We're really excited to have so many of you join us today. I think this is the most popular session we've run so far, which is great to know that we're still looking at the subject matter that you find engaging and important to you. And I mentioned there's a Q&A section at the end of the session today, as there normally is. So you can either save any questions that you have for that time of the event, or you can feel free to pop them into the chat function during the session if you'd rather do that, and we'll then relay those at the end of the session. So a lot of you are probably familiar with the work and the support to small businesses that the Planet Mark offer. It's something that we've shared over the last couple of years, and I know some of you have engaged directly with the Planet Mark team in the last year or so. And today we're really pleased to be joined by Jonathan, who heads their business development team. So Jonathan is going to be talking to us about home working sustainability, environmentally friendly working from home guidelines, and how sustainable home working is great for staff engagement and good business. So I think that's probably enough from me, and I will hand you over to Jonathan.
Awesome, thanks Kate. Good morning everybody. As Kate said, I head up the business development team at the Planet Mark, and thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you guys about the different ways in which we're working and the role that sustainability has to play in that, especially around engaging staff. And I'm going to share my screen and take you through some slides in order to do that. So cool. Can everyone, Kate, can you just confirm that you can see that?
Yep, looks good.
Beautiful forestry scene with the leaves just changing in line with autumn, right? Awesome. So got a bit of an agenda today. So I'm going to start, I always start really broad and work our way in. So some big picture stuff, as well as the business case for sustainability, and then how this year and everything that's happening in terms of change has affected the way in which we work and actually organisation sustainability journeys. How we measure and reduce carbon working from home in a business context, and how we help staff to reduce carbon working from home, because our environmental impacts have transitioned in a lot of cases from within an office setting to actually within a home setting. So how do we help people live more sustainably, which will indirectly reduce an organization's carbon and environmental impacts? And then how do we effectively engage teams in remote working and the role sustainability has to play within that? And then how do we communicate some of these achievements? All in 20 minutes. So Kate, can you shout at me as well if I'm running a little bit over?
Will do, no problem.
Thank you very much. So I've been working in sustainability now for sort of 10 years. I did a master's in business and sustainability back in 2011, 2012. And kind of naively assumed there'd be a lot more of a business focus on the issues, considering how significant they were at the time, and learned some harsh lessons that there actually weren't. But I think in 2019 was a bit of a pivotal year in terms of engagement around some of these issues that you see here, with the likes of Extinction Rebellion, School Strike for Climate, and Greta Thunberg, and but essentially young people doing forms of activism to engage these issues. But what we've learned, and what I've learned over the last 10 years, and sustainability professionals and climate scientists have learned, is spouting the doom and gloom rhetoric of the world is going to end unless we change our course in terms of development as a global society, doesn't really resonate with people very well, and doesn't actually cause change to happen. So what the Planet Mark tries to focus on is actually some of the amazing things that are going on around the world in order to maintain the momentum that we've experienced last year, especially with the current health crisis that's going on. And I could pick out some of these things that are going on here. I think BP have recently, what was I reading this morning? BP have committed to 2 massive projects on carbon capture and storage. and we've just commissioned the largest offshore wind farm in the world off the coast of Yorkshire. So there are some really, really awesome things happening. And we have to tell these positive stories to maintain the momentum, and we cannot let the current health crisis and the economic implications that has halt the momentum and see the environmental issues and social issues get put on the back burner like we have with historic recessions. And actually, there's a really beautiful business case for sustainability now, covering these broad range of value add pieces that businesses that adopt and showcase sustainable practices in a really meaningful way will remain relevant and actually grow as organizations. And I'm going to focus on two key areas in relation to this conversation that we're having today around remote working and working from home, which is attracting and retaining talent and future-proofing your business, because remote working in some form or another is here to stay. And there's actually a lot of benefits to that, right? So we know that people enjoy having more of a flexible working schedule and more trust given to them to be able to do stuff. So I went for a run this morning, which if I had to get on the tube to present to you guys physically, maybe I wouldn't have been able to do, or I could have got up earlier. People enjoy not having to commute. People have more time with their families. And we have the ability to work from any location. So we got members of the team working from all around Europe now, which is really cool. And we don't have to be in a local geographic location. And as we're seeing a bit of a mass exodus from London as well around these issues. So remote working, there are some real positives, especially around mental health and well-being. There are also some challenges associated with remote working, and this is quite an interesting study done by the World Economic Forum from a manager's perspective, what they're worried about. And reduced employee productivity and maintaining a culture and maintaining that company culture, and in this context, the culture of sustainability to help attract and retain your talent and to help future-proof your business is really important, and a really interesting area that I think sustainability and supporting staff working more sustainably at home has a role to play. And I'm going to talk about it through the lens of the planet mark a little bit, because that's what I can most relate to in the conversations that I'm having with organizations holds. And so what does the role of a sustainability program have in supporting people working remotely from home and helping them live more sustainably at home? So from a measurement perspective, how has that changed in terms of how we measure carbon and environmental impacts within a working environment? And how do we engage staff working from home? And how do we communicate effectively ways in which people can work from home? So from a measurement perspective, what is the issue here? So traditionally, a carbon footprint encompasses what we call scope 1 and scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. So scope 1 and scope 2 is your office energy consumption. So scope 1 is your direct fuel consumption for gas for heating and cooling buildings, and then fuel that you're putting into company owned or leased vehicles. And scope 2 is your electricity consumption. And then there's a bunch of scope 3 stuff around indirect fuel consumption, which encompasses waste, water, and procurement. Now, all of that, if you're a company where people are working from home a lot, typically a service-based company, is going to be moving from an office setting into a home setting and differentiating people's energy associated with your personal activities versus your activities associated with your place of work is really challenging. So there's a whole bunch of estimates and methodologies around how to measure working from home. And there is also a bunch of understanding around the implications on organizations' carbon footprint with staff working from home more. And it's really, really interesting. And we're figuring it out, right? So at the start of lockdown, there were a whole bunch of articles around and research around people reductions in carbon and actually people better connected with nature as a result of this and a better work-life balance. So we're seeing reductions in commuting and business travel. So we're doing a lot less face-to-face meetings now, and we're having conversations like this through video conferencing platforms. But what we're finding out, especially with winter coming in, that actually it's a lot more energy efficient to have a bunch of people in an office environment, and heating and cooling typically quite modern buildings is a lot more efficient than everyone working remotely in their different households. And the UK housing stock is horribly inefficient, which I'm going to go through in a little bit. So where does the balance, so what offsets what? So research conducted relatively recently actually shows typically we think there's going to be a net reduction in carbon associated with businesses' carbon footprints, but we're still continuing to understand what that is, and the picture becomes clearer as time goes on. And I think that research is going to shift a little bit come the new year, when we understand how much household bills have increased and energy associated with working from home has increased. And for us working from home, actually the cost of working from home from an energy perspective and a carbon perspective is increasing. And this is a really interesting table to show how much that is going to be increasing based on the number of days a week we work from home. So depending on the different areas in the country that you're working from, etc., and the latest advice, we, like as the Planet Mark, we're all working from home 5 days a week. Some people are more flexible with that and going in a little bit. And you can see here that our winter energy bills could significantly increase. So from a measurement perspective, companies have an opportunity, and also, in my opinion, a responsibility to help staff working from home reduce their energy bills, which is indirectly going to reduce a company's carbon footprint associated with its operations. So where do those biggest opportunities lie? So actually, buying renewable energy and switching to a renewable energy provider, which I'm going to touch on in a second, is the most powerful thing we can do to reduce our carbon footprint at home. Then it's what we eat and waste associated with that, as well as washing clothes in cold water, which is something I should probably do more. But yeah, so buying greener energy and then reducing our meat consumption and then recycling and actually not reducing, not generating waste in the first place is really, really powerful. And from a company perspective, lots of companies are giving IT equipment to staff working remotely at home in order to help them do their job better, right? I've got 2 screens, a keyboard, a mouse, and all of these things. So around that, IT teams have an opportunity to have a look at the equipment they're issuing to staff working at home and looking at the most energy efficient equipment to make it easier for staff to reduce energy associated with their business activities at home. So using and updating IT equipment regularly and ensuring that that IT equipment is as energy efficient as possible. And then if you're supplying supplies such as stationery and other office related equipment to people at home, there's a number of companies now, especially in the Planet Mark community, who issue single-use plastic-free equipment, which I can introduce you to, which can help and do like a plastic-free audit and things like that. So we're reducing other environmental impacts such as plastics associated with stuff that you buy to support people working from home. And then there's a couple of fun facts here that, as I said, our houses are super inefficient. So our windows, we lose about 10% of all our energy or heating energy through not very airtight windows. And then there's a fun fact here that actually turning your heating thermostat down by 1 degree C can save you about £90 a year, which is equivalent to between 360 and I think that should say between 35 and 60 kilograms of CO2 every year. Other things you can do to recommend to staff and make it really easy for them to reduce energy from home is just general advice all around measurement. So These small changes, which you can see here, can save up to £100 a year. So such as switching to LEDs, things that you perceive as fairly obvious, especially in a business setting and an office setting where facilities managers are absolutely owning this area and really addressing the low-hanging fruit. But transitioning that into a home setting can sometimes be a bit more challenging. So helping staff with that is really important. And then other things like draft proofing associated with the 10% loss through windows can save £4 every year. Adding loft insulation can save £135 every year, and upgrading your boiler has a longer term payback, and so it's a higher upfront cost, but can actually save a significant amount of money every year. Now, this area in terms of renewable energy is really interesting. So I think companies have got really good from a social perspective of looking after staff socially, especially around anxiety and mental health and things like that. There's amazing support that's going on around now. Now, I think with everything that's going on and people working from home a lot more, there is also an opportunity and in some way a responsibility for companies to help their staff switch to renewable energy providers. There's a number out there which are really good, and switching regularly as we know, can help you save even more on your energy tariff. I'm not an expert in this area, but I think inspiring the change and making it really easy for staff to switch to renewable energy providers is really important. So supplying them with useful information is really, really good. And actually, there's companies now that are looking to procure and broker renewable energy contracts for staff, and offering them favourable rates through energy providers is a really awesome way to help staff on their journeys, and again reduce your indirect impacts through people working from home more. There's also tax relief through the government, so you can claim up to £26 a month if you are working from home, and there's some really great links to make it really easy for companies to do that. So I recommend that you go and check out the government support through that. So those are ways in which we can help staff from a measurement perspective and start reducing their energy impacts at home. And then from an engagement impacts and how you tell these stories, there are a number of different ways to do that. So if we link that back to the very beginning and looking at culture within an organization, actually maintaining that culture and embedding a culture of sustainability in an organization, engaging staff while working remotely is a really awesome way to do that. So a few ways in which you can engage. I don't know how familiar people are with the Do Nation. They are an amazing platform that add a little bit of competitiveness and identify ways in which individuals can reduce carbon while working from home. So there's stuff that they do in the office, but they can also identify working from home. And I've done it with a couple of companies now where we create a campaign and we create these different teams based on different departments, for example, which you can have HR, finance, sales, put them all in different teams together. Then people commit to a bunch of pledges which measure the carbon saving associated with those pledges. So I can say, I'm going to take 5-minute showers as opposed to 10-minute showers. There's actually a carbon saving associated with that. I'll commit to that for 2 months, and we'll all collectively make different pledges. And then the collective savings of those pledges all get totaled up. And then the team that saves the most carbon wins prizes and stuff like that. And it's an amazing behavior change campaign that can boost staff morale and indirectly reduce your organization's carbon footprint. And I can link you to some cool case studies and the founder of that organization, Hermione, who's done an amazing job. Now, the Planet Mark, we love to engage people, and normally we get physically in front of people and do things like giant certificate presentations and engagement workshops to help companies on their sustainability journeys. We've transitioned everything remotely for obvious reasons, right? So we use this platform here, Zoom, which has a bunch of interactive features, and actually we can engage more people because not everyone can attend a meeting and be physically present, or you just have to log into an online call. And we focus on that, telling the positive and powerful stories around these things and celebrating that organization's achievements and carbon reductions it's made on the year before, and help form carbon management plans. We also do monthly webinars around different issues and topics, and just maintain momentum on all the amazing stuff that's going on. And then 2 weeks ago, we had our first online awards, which went really, really well. And it was really fun, and on a platform called Remo, with lots of online networking and engagement for people to collaborate and share best practice, especially within different industries, around what they're doing to improve. So engagement on these issues is really important. And then from a communication perspective, telling powerful stories around what your company is doing to boost morale and engage staff in these issues is really, really awesome and important. So the two ways in which the Planet Mark approach this is Eden Project is our founding charitable partner. We, through the Eden Project, 5% of every certification fee goes donated directly to the Eden Project. And before all this craziness of this year happened, people would receive 12 tickets to go down and check out Eden, which still happens when we're all allowed out and about again. But a large proportion of that donation goes to inner city schools and runs an online program for inner city schools to engage kids with the importance of nature and help connect them better with nature, which again is a really powerful story. And we align the Eden Project's education program with staff's schools that they send their kids to. So there's some supporting organisation staff's families as well. And then the other amazing charity that we work with is Cool Earth, who help protect rainforest in and around in the most rainforest that's due to be cut down in the next 6 months. And the way in which they do that is they help we protect an acre of rainforest in every company's names that join the Planet Mark. And Cool Earth work with indigenous communities who live in the most at-risk rainforest around the world, and they help them create sustainable business out of non-timber based products. And this tribe here is the Ashaninka tribe in Peru, and they grow cocoa in the rainforest in which they live. And Cool Earth take that cocoa and turn it into the most amazing dark chocolate, and all of the proceeds go back to these indigenous communities so they can afford to say no to loggers who are trying to cut down their rainforest. And we help companies issue this chocolate to staff working from home as a really good piece of news. And they have got all these cheesy phrases like they can taste sustainability and all these things. But it's just another nice way to boost staff morale and help maintain a culture of sustainability within organizations, and actually staff become more productive as a result of that. And then we also, which I'm going to send a link to the Heart of the City team to issue to everyone who's here today and anyone who wasn't able to attend. We've got a really cool online interactive PDF, which is our home worker package. It gives you little things that, in line with what I presented today, that staff can do to reduce their impacts. And here's an extract. It covers everything from kind of energy saving to eating more sustainably to reducing transport if you are traveling, and then reducing waste at home, in line with that infographic with the kingfishers on, in terms of the most impactful things staff can do while working from home. So to summarize, life's very different at the moment with all this craziness, and working from home in some context and some form is here to stay. But sustainability has a massive role to play in addressing some of those issues that are associated with people working from home, because not being physically present together does affect how we feel and how we are connected with the companies that we work for. And engaging and helping staff live more sustainably at home will not only reduce your business's indirect carbon footprint associated with people working from home, the environmental impacts of that, but also helps us feel more together and gives us a stronger sense of purpose around what we do. And it's really, really important, especially as winter's coming in, and yeah, it's going to get a little bit tougher, before it gets easier. So it's really exciting, and thank you again for the opportunity to share some thoughts and some ways in which organizations can help their staff working from home. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, if that's okay.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And just a couple of reminders that our foundation program recruitment is underway for 2021. So if you do have any kind of contacts in SMEs that are based in London that you think could benefit from being part of the Heart of the City program for next year and the future, please do signpost them to us, because we'd love to hear from them. And lovely to see you all this morning. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.